questions on your talk this afternoon.
Yes.
Wasn't Noah also a zoologist? He took care of animals. He fed them and took care of them. What was it? That was another.
He was in the zoo business. I thought of that also. But
And the second was that the rainbow came before the grapes.
No. The rainbow, yes, right. The rainbow came before the grapes.
You insinuated that he had the job first.
Right. But the rainbow is a covenant forever.
Okay.
I know, you're correct, right. The rainbow is Chamishi, and the grapes is Shishi. Inter-inclusion, because actually we said that the Avdus, the Avodim is Hod, which is Chamishi, and the rainbow is Bris, which is Yisod, which is Shishi, so there's a inversion. Is Chaladus. So we'll try to make that work better in our edited version.
That's a nice concept. And I don't normally know it.
Yeah.
I had finished Kiddush.
I have noticed that shul, the Nicolai Children's Program,
Right. Now I saw that they invested in the children. That there was somebody there to sing with them all the songs, and they put a lot, which is good. They put a lot of effort into the children.
So in the end, they said it will come with the children to visit. So. They will be inspired.
I have a question about your idea that we should be sort of centered around Hasidic Jewish activism. If I understand it, you said we are Hasidic Jewish activists, but then there was a reference earlier that it really comes from Israel. And I've heard other Jewish groups have similarly tried to focus their efforts by making a rally cry around Israel. And they have sort of decontented Judaism.
Right, so that's what we meant, that it has to be Torah Hasidic, which is something, there are other groups. That's exactly what we meant.
Other examples, other than coming to Malka, I'm saying we should follow the actions going on over there, and we should try to, donate money specifically to certain causes over there.
For sure.
Protest over there. That should be something we should caution.
Right, to feel part of it, and that the money is membership, is being part, is being an active part. It's not just as was established here from the beginning of the state, just giving money and then having no say in whatsoever.
Yeah, because we're following it. We're thinking we're
right. So you're a mando omer, that's the concept. You have what to say. You're part of the operation.
Said that in order to create yesh me'ayin, there should have been a break involved in the middles, not to have a symmetry between the two forces, not to have between the two energies or whatever. But isn't it right to think that in the time of Mashiach it's possible to live, to function, while within you and the world there should be a symmetry. There should be a symmetry, and this is in time that there shall be a dira, Hashem b'tachtonim, that we should be able to rest with this symmetry.
It says in Tanya that even in the world to come there is no rest for tzaddikim, but then at some point in the future there will be rest.
Okay. And why Canaan that was cursed, why Eretz Israel was given to Canaan that was cursed?
So what we were alluding to today is that Canaan has to do with the power of work. Also, Canaan means a merchant. And a merchant in Hasidus means that he's able to extract from reality points, like Tzot. So there's something also good about Eretz Canaan. Also, Canaan means submission in the soul, hachno. Even though he was cursed, but there are many, many things that have to be extracted, many elements or nitzetes that have to come out of him. And it says that Eretz Canaan is called Eretz Canaan also positively, for all of the positive attributes of Canaan. The fact that he's able to, all Jews are merchants. The word merchant is Canaan. And all Jews have to have hachno, have to have submission, to feel submission before HaKadosh, but that's the word Canaan. It has to be changed. It says that that Canaan himself is Eliezer Eved Abraham. So Chazal say that not just that he's a descendant of Canaan, but he is Canaan himself. That's what Chazal say. And Eliezer Eved Abraham began cursed, and then he transformed into blessed when he made the shidduch for Yitzchak and Rivka. And the Arizal says that the soul of Eliezer Eved Abraham is one of those souls that entered alive into Gan Eden. His soul reincarnates until Mashiach. It has a very messianic essence to it. The soul of Eliezer, which is actually Canaan himself. So Canaan was cursed. He's the son of Ham, which is also the lowest, the most base of the three sons of Noach, Shem, Ham, Yafes. And nonetheless, there's something about Canaan that he, from the very lowest point, he elevates. What to do with the Canaanite nations? Also, we are commanded to eradicate the Canaanite nations, beginning with Canaan himself when we enter Israel. Just it says that today, physically, they're no longer identifiable, the Rambam says. But obviously there's something about Canaan. We spoke once more in Beishmo, we made a point that the first part of the Torah, Breshis, says that initially everything that Hashem created is good. Vayar Elokim ki tov, which includes even the snake is good. It's also part of creation. Everything is good. Then the second parsha is that there are good goyim also, like Noach. The snake figure of Noach himself in Parshas Noach is this grandson, Canaan. It says that had we merited, the snake would have become a great servant to humanity. It means that he can be utilized. We're talking about technology. The snake can be utilized in a way to bring great goodness to humanity. In the same way, the same of Canaan. So Canaan is definitely a very interesting figure. Yes.
What is the connecting part with go to you and the two levels, lech, lecha?
Once more?
The connecting part, lech, lecha, go to you.
Yes.
So what are the two levels there and what is the connecting part?
Lech can either be going up or going down. You can either be your source or your purpose. Because if Lech is going up, then you is your source. If Lech is going down, then you is your purpose, your mission on earth. So one can still say that the power of progress, of change, is definitely in that word Lech, the first word. That's the chidush of Avraham Avinu, that he's not stagnant. He's not like Noach. He's not like a Malach. It says that angels are also stagnant. They don't, even though they move, but they're not moving any place. They're not progressing. There's a verse. I give you walkers amongst the standers. That the standers, the static reality, or the malachim, the angels, and the dynamic reality is the Jewish soul. So if that dynamic essence of the Jewish soul is the real thing which is unique to the Jewish soul, so I would say that that's the ultimate origin of the Jewish soul, the Lech itself, the ultimate above. And then the you would then primarily be your purpose on earth, your manifestation. But the Lech, which is being dynamic, or we're talking about activism. So activism is Lech, is go someplace, do something, change reality, replace. What's more, Avraham Avinu was not into protesting against the government. He was into creating a new government, Avraham Avinu. And to create a new government and something new altogether, which is called Panim Chadashot Ba'olachan, that's in the word Lech.
I'm sorry. The thing is like this.
I was just thinking, at one time we had a campaign to write our names to get a letter from the Torah, so I wrote in pages of all our relatives, and it was Lech Lecha, and I'm seeing like it's such a personal thing.
Okay, it's for each one of us it's personal. Lech Lecha. Hashem is telling us to go. The very simple thing about Lech Lecha, some of us are also going to immerse Hashem to fulfill it, is that we all have to go to Israel, because that's what Hashem is saying. So everybody at the proper time should receive inspiration from this week, and this week, this day actually, this is the first chitas of the week, is that we all have to leave Chutz La'aretz and go physically to Eretz Yisrael, and they begin to spread light from Eretz Yisrael to shine to the whole world.
I'm sorry, Rav, but I'm sorry that I want to be very honest and tell to the Rav what I feel when he says to replace the government. You see, watching history, when the Jews fought each other, nothing good came out of it. And to call for a rebellion, I'm sorry even to say, I don't feel comfortable with the whole concept. Change, yes. Rebellion, no.
We're not.
The thing is like this. Maybe what is needed is that anybody that is not observant yet, all of this that control the media and all of this, the smallest things, all of them, maybe what has to be changed in them, not only that they have to observe, but let's leave it alone for a minute, but that they should feel that they are, should be proud that they are Jews. And I'm not so sure that they are proud and they know what does it mean to be a Jew.
Exactly, because that's the topic that we're addressing all of the time that the days that we're here, is that the problem is identity, Jewish identity.
That's it. It's not
That's
to
it.
replace the government, because that's to call for a merit, which I cannot.
We're not necessarily calling for a merit. So this question is a good. I'm very happy that you got to this question, because this was the purpose is to get to your question, and now I'll let Nati answer your question. So your question, we're not talking about rebellion, about fighting with guns against Jewish people. We're not into that. We're beginning with Jewish identity, exactly what you said, how we're now going to replace the government so Nati will give us the plan of action. Or Ephraim. Let's start here. Nati is closer, so let's hear what he has to say.
I mean, this will come from the people.
Let's hear.
When they will be educated.
Okay. Let's hear what. Let's.
מהפך פנימי של האנשים, של היהודים. Afraid to be Jewish against America or against...
You are saying exactly the
This is what the word
principles of what you are talking about, yeah? To plant in the heart of the people.
הממשלה זה לא אומר שצריך עכשיו לבוא עם רובים. יש דרכים מקובלות לבוא ולעשות את זה.
I believe if I understood it, so
Our
many other
government,
also
our
understood
government is a Jewish government. They care about the Jewish law, the Torah. No, we want to check it. They are willing to give the pieces from Eretz Israel. Yes, so we need to check it.
So the psychological claim,
It's very simple.
the psychological
No, it's very
change,
simple to
המהפך
think.
should be in them too. So it's not with הפגנות,
All right, so-
screaming.
No,
We
that's
just said that Afghanot, it's not...
that's what we just said. That the Rebbe is not into demonstrating, into screaming. That's not the way at all. It has to do with education, with Jewish identity. And when I say replace, it doesn't mean a rebellion. And replace can be just to achieve a majority. Replace the government is that you're the majority, even in the present government. If we're the majority, we have replaced the government. We don't want to be another party in the minority, because as long as you're a party in the minority, the government continues with its mindset, totally. As soon as we're a majority, even in the existing government, we have replaced the government, because then we can change if you're a majority, you can change the laws. You can do everything if you have enough of a majority in the government. So once more, we're not talking about fighting with guns. We're talking about education. That people want, that there should be enough people, a majority of people in Israel should desire and choose, and a majority of people in Chutz Haaretz, as we said before, a majority of the Jewish people should choose to be Jewish in a communal sense, not just to be Jewish in your house, in your home, to be Jewish in public, and to run the Jewish people according to a Jewish vision, which is the Torah. That's the difference. People think that it's enough to be Jewish in person, like they used to say in the German Jews, the Yekes, that be a Yid in your home and be a mensch when you go outside. That's exactly not what we desire.
It was just now a general in the army that fought when into the war said to the soldiers in a letter that we are going in the name of God to rescue Israel from the hand of the enemy. And everybody, including a lot of parliament members, were like shocked and were against it. Why do you invoke God's name in a war that we are doing? This is exactly the Mahapach, not it's exactly as you say, by planting Jewish identity in the hearts of the parliament members, in the people of Israel. And by this, if people will create a new heart of Jewish identity, so this is the Mahapach. If not, we will find other people who will replace them, and we will do it. This is we came to a point that even to say the name of God before that we go to it, in general we say the name of God to going to fight is like crucified all over. So this is what we are trying to do. This is the whole thing, to plant in the heart of people all over Israel, including in the parliament, Jewish identity again, as was in the beginning.
I think that the Rav say Mahapach because the logic today is absolutely opposite, and we need to change the head. You know, it's called Mahapach. It's not like maybe a little bit cosmetic. It's not cosmetic. It changed the head absolutely, because everything how the state of Israel think is like totally opposite of what the Torah says. So we don't need some cosmetics. We need total change.
Prime Minister will sell Jerusalem, and all his children are not living in Israel, and he sells Jerusalem, and it's corrupted. It's old Omen, for example. Somebody that we need to change, to replace with somebody with a Jewish identity and moral, a Jewish moral. And there is no, with a lot of Ahavat Israel, we need to do this, do this changes.
So is it correct then what I'm hearing is that the Pure High movement is advocating this replacement through political means? Are you endorsing that the actual way of doing it is to get ultimately a majority in Knesset of religious Jews that would then replace the secular state of Israel with a Torah state? Are you accepting that?
That's one possible. That's one possible. We have to reach a majority. Whether that majority then something will happen that we cannot foresee, that the present state will disappear and a new state will appear, or that it has to go through the present reality, but just to totally overhaul. Like you have a car that you have to totally overhaul, change all of its parts. So that's a possibility. That's
but right now is the
movement right now is
political candidates. Does
we're not yet a political party, but it's a possibility. Possibility.
And Moshe Beglin's strategy of working within the Likud, and my understanding, I'm not that aware of current politics, is that he has moved up in his position within Likud, which is the ruling party.
Okay, he's doing his thing. When he began many years ago, not too many years ago, so we gave him, and I gave him a blessing to succeed, because he's close to us. I mean, is the concept that he uses, which is called manhigut Yehudit, Jewish leadership. That comes from a previous version of Derech Hayim, the version that the Rebbe himself very, very strongly gave a blessing to, which at that time was called Chai V'Kayam, which was about 26 years ago. And as soon as we suggested that movement to the Rebbe, there was a very, very strong blessing that he gave, that is very important to do it, Chai V'Kayam. And at that point, the sisma that we used was Manhigut Yehudit. It was the Jewish leadership. So that phrase he took from that. And I told him very, very strong that I wouldn't go through the Likud, because it's not Torah, it's not Alpi Torah. But if that's what you think you want to do, so you should be matzliach. But I gave him a very good blessing for. Nonetheless, we still believe that that's not exactly the way. And he even though he is progressing, but even in his statements, he is making compromise, like Torah compromises, we'll say, which is definitely not the way that the Rebbe would have said to progress. But I hope that he also. That's a classic example of what the Rebbe said, that everybody does his thing, and maybe together we'll...
Maybe another way of saying what you're saying about focusing our energies there is that we should just do what we do as Lubavitchers, just more intensely over there, which is we bring the other Yidden close to the Torah. And it's not really like we have a political bend or a political shift, just that we as a Chabad community strengthen, as the outsiders would call it, cure. We strengthen our cure efforts in Israel to have the effect that you're speaking of.
we also believe and see in actuality that for the sake of kiruv itself proper, talking with people on the street about like a new vision of Israel, it arouses people even to do mitzvahs. It has a tremendous kiruv potential to it. When you talk about replacing the government. Because unfortunately, the fact that there's so many secular Jews in the country, and that people came especially from the Sephardic backgrounds and left observant Yiddishkeit, it's all totally because of the makifim that are broadcast by the government. So just like the government took people away from Yiddishkeit, sometimes in very coercive ways, but sometimes not in coercive way, in outwardly coercive ways, just by the spirit that they broadcast. So it says, Meruba midotevo, that the good is always stronger than the bad. So in the same way, when you talk about changing the government, you're creating an atmosphere of kiruv for millions, not just for individuals. And we see this working. When you go with a taxi driver and talk with him about how bad he knows that he'll tell you even before you tell him how bad the policy in the war was, that we didn't win the war and that we sent soldiers to be killed, chas v'sholom. When he starts talking about that, the very next thing he says, when let's say I'm riding in a taxi, this is personal experience, he starts asking about Torah and mitzvahs. But he correcting the government being an observant Jew and keeping Shabbos, not driving his taxi on Shabbos. It goes together. It's the same thing. So if we really want to bring back people to Yiddishkeit on a collective level, the way to do it is by talking about collective things.
It's been a while, since a few years, if I'm correct, you've been here.
Yes.
And what are the changes going on? I mean, the society there, in the level of reception to Yiddishkeit, to Torah mitzvahs, has there been a major change in Israeli society in the last 4 years?
There's always a lot of arousal of tshuva, but again, I want the people here to tell you, that ETL can tell you. שינויים ב4 שנים האחרונות לגבי ציבורים, יידישקייט.
דבר שהוא... דבר אחד מאוד בולט, שהדיבור על זה שצריך הנהגה על פי תורה הוא היום פופולרי מאוד. פעם זה היה דמיון, היום כולה... מה זה? זה שלב, זה דבר שהוא מדברים אותו. בתרבות, במוזיקה, יש הרבה שינוי, שהם כמעט כל האומנים הם בתהליך של התקרבות ליהדות. זה דבר גם...
So all of the most famous musicians in Israel are all now doing tshuva, though.
זה משפיע על מה ששומעים ברדיו, זה משפיע על מה שמדברים. ויש דבר שהוא יותר תת-קרקעי, אבל הדיבורים כמו מוסר מלחמה יהודי, לפי כמה שיש לזה התנגדות בחוץ, ככה מרגישים כמה... לא הכל למטה, בעיתונאים כן מתחילים להגיד שצריך משהו לשנות, מבינים שיש משהו מעוות. זה תוצאה של דיבור.
משהו לשנות מצד תרבות או מצד...
לא, אוקיי, דיברתי על המוסר לחימה. זה מה עולה בדעתי. כן, אומר שאפרים אומר נכון שאצל הרבה יהודים מרגישים שינוי לטובה, אבל במערכת זה רק הולך למטה. הפער בין הרגש היהודי וכאילו, זה כתוב, הרבה תשובה פרטית, אבל הבית משפט, הכנסת, המערכת הציבורית רק הולכת ומתדלדלת. וממילא זה גם נותן תקווה, שלכן כשמדברים עם יהודים, זה נותן תקווה שכשמדברים עם יהודים אז זה רואים
That sounds like asymmetric, ready for change.
Ephraim.
Maybe I'll just add a couple of examples to what Itiel just said. is אולי כדי שישמעו אותך גם
זה המקום שלו שאוהב להיות.
לפחות תיקח את הרב.
גולן, אפרים.
I'll introduce myself. That's fine. I'll introduce myself shortly. I'll start with a joke I heard from a good friend here, Nati. Today, I'm from a place called that some people call the West Bank, but it's in the east and there's no bank there. I'm from Samaria, from a settlement called Yitzhak, and I live there. I'm married. I have 4 children, and I make a living with. I have a business, 2 businesses. One I do metal work, bars and hand railings and all kinds of work. Stainless steel work, a lot of work in mikvot, and also I have a hardware store. And then one of the things that's important in our business is that everything is only with Jewish labor. It's one of the things we learned from the Rav, and he has a lot of influence in this issue. Just to explain a little bit, when I started out in the metalworking area, and if we would need a screw or a nail or anything we're missing, there's an Arab store 5 minutes away. But because of the importance of this issue, we would drive an hour away till the next Jewish town just to buy a screw, because we don't want to do business with the Arabs, because any money that goes to them, it harms Eretz Israel. They just use it to build more houses and for bad things, to send their children to throw rocks and stuff. Anyway, I'll give a couple more examples to what Itiel is saying. Today in Israel, there's a couple of things that most people are not aware of, like the fact that it's illegal to open a Jewish school. In New York, you're allowed to open a Jewish school. In Eretz Israel, it's illegal. If a non-Jew or an Arab wants to go into a Jewish school and he appeals to the Supreme Court, they force them to take it. It's illegal to have a Jewish settlement and a Jewish city. You're not allowed to. There's some non-Jews, again Arabs, that live inside settlements in Judah and Shimon, in Judea and Samaria, because they appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court immediately says, okay, it's illegal to only hire Jews. If you come and say you want to only hire a Jew, it's not only illegal if you advertise that you need a worker and an Arab comes in and says, I want to work by you, and then he sues you, you're the one who has to prove that there's a different reason that you didn't take him and not because he's an Arab. So just adding on to what Itiel is saying is that the systems today in Israel, that's one of the changes that's definitely felt, is that the system, I'd even say it's a little racism against Jews. One of the hardest things to see is in Har HaBayit, in the Temple Mount. If you're a Jew, you're not allowed to daven there. You're not allowed to pray. That's true. One of the other changes, one of the good changes, is that the awareness to the importance of the Temple Mount, to the importance that we're the ones who should be there, it raised greatly. Definitely raised greatly.
Tell about Siluv Shavri.
Oh, one of the projects that one of the projects that one of the Rav's students is involved in is it's called in Hebrew. Several of the students. That's correct. Is once a month and every Rosh Chodesh, thousands of come and circle the Temple Mount, circle all the gates. Actually, Itiel was saying yesterday is that the reason that we circle the gates, and it's not like is part of the view that there are 3 mitzvot that the Jews need to do when they come into Eretz Israel. That one of them, the first one, is to put a king.
Appoint a king.
To appoint a king, and the next one is to go out to Milchemet Mitzvah, to fight Amalek, and the third one is to build the temple. So it's part of saying that we're on our way there. We still have to do these other mitzvot, but we're definitely on our way there. And that started as a little event. I mean, in the beginning there was a dozen people circling all the gates, and today there's thousands, and it's the biggest public event that's monthly in all of Israel. the biggest event. Oh, maybe one more bad example, just one of the things I experienced personally. I live in a hilltop near the settlement called Yitzhak. I joined it 6 years ago when there was 5 families, and today we're considered a big one. We have 15 families. And the way it works is that you build 3 or 4 houses and the army wrecks one, destroys one. You build another 3 or 4 and destroy another one. And this only happens if you're a Jew. If you're an Arab and you build a house in Samaria, so you're allowed to build a house. If you're a Jew, it's illegal and they come and destroy it. And it's even harder to see it in a time like we all saw the Arab who killed a 3-month-old baby a couple of days ago. And in this whole time, the last couple of years, when there's always more and more violence against Jews, somehow the army and the police still have lots of soldiers to send to do stuff against Jews, to destroy Jews' houses and stuff like that.
Are you working in cooperation with any, you were talking about a cooperation as a tikkun ma'asiyah in the lowest world, the Shtatfut. Are you working with any political parties right now? Do you have any allies together? Derek Chaim, I'm speaking about your Tenuah. Do you have any partners that you are actively working with? Who are they, if you know?
Right now there isn't yet, but there is definitely a lot of contacts we started. It's a process. It's not in one day to make these type of shitufei pa'ula, to work together. So we definitely started talking to different movements and different, it's one of the things the Rav was talking about, to work together, because some of the things we say also other people say. So there's we're on our way there.
It depends a lot upon numbers. There's a very influential rabbi in Israel that I won't mention his name, that has also thousands and thousands of people that are influenced by him. He says that as soon as we'll have 100,000 members, then he'll join and other people will join, and then it will become like a big thing. So we just have to reach our 100,000 membership, and then it starts to snowball. It means that there are many people that are sympathetic and that agree with the idea. It's just the question is, are you realistic, or are you just...
Are you allowed to publicize this matching fund, not matching fund, matching the 100,000 of his followers? Are you allowed to publicize that?
I think so. I think so. I don't think that he... Sure.
If he's that powerful a person, that would attract a lot of people. If they knew that as they reach goals, they would...
Because one of our... The Tenuah has different projects. One project is working on membership. And just like anything else, it simply means being able to have the funding to put stands around the country of explanation, and people come and if you, with one stand you can thousands of people will join the party.
You mentioned about Jewish labor.
Yes.
The other night today. It seems to be an important part of plank of your platform.
Yes.
How does that resonate in Israel? I know in America that would not resonate. For example, just the things you said, for example, that if Arab come, you're not allowed to hire, you're not allowed to say you can't hire him because they're Arab. In America, you can't do that also. It's called discrimination. The person wants to live on this block, you can't, it's illegal for an agent, a real estate agent, not to sell it to him because he's another minority or whatever. So, and that is vastly popular in America and among American Jews. What I seem to hear from you is something that's very much against that. You should be able to, okay? You should be able to, your party is advocating active discrimination, active not allowing to work with Arabs, not to allow them to live in Moshavim. How does that resonate in Israel? Public. Is that a big issue there? And do people support it? Have there been any polls on it? What's the story?
I'm thinking about the Hayibrid, right? In the early to say the Hayibrid, Jewish labor, right?
It was advocated years and years ago, but it was never followed. Even the first Zionists that talked about it never did it. They always employed Arabs since the beginning of the state. beginning of before the state.
It's my understanding there's more non-Jewish workers in Israel than there ever been. Filipino, Taiwan,
Right, but-
Thailand.
right.
So it seems to me that platform, if that is that truly an essential platform? Is it popular? Is it an essential platform? And if it's not an essential platform, why would you bring it up if it's not popular and it's going against the grain? It seems like it could be hurting your efforts where you could be doing more things like Jewish education, positive things that people could rally.
Okay, that's a good question. What do you have to say about that?
A few things. I'm not sure that the kind of Jewish education that we want is something that is based about popularity, not and especially in the beginning. I want to say what is right and then become popular.
We'll talk about that platform, about Jewish, non-Jewish labor.
About non-Jewish labor, I can say in my experience that, for example, one of the biggest problems we have like taxi drivers, so, you know, they are like grassroots. Many times you can feel people through the taxi driver. One of the things in Jerusalem, all over the Israel, that the taxi drivers are by financial level, they are starving because the Arabs are buying taxis without any. Today, if you invite a taxi driver, a Jewish taxi driver have very difficult lives because they put they do very cheap rates and everything like that. So when you ask only a Jewish driver, they are with you 100%. Your brothers who are seeking for a job and that don't have jobs because of frozen labor. So of course for them it's very popular that we are asking them to provide services.
Yeah, but a national movement you can't base on informal surveys and taxi cab drivers. You have to know what they say in the Borsa, in the Diamond District, in the Knesset, in the stockbrokers, in Herzliya, Petah Tikva, you know, the high-tech guys. What do the high-tech guys say?
But in the high-tech,
high-tech in Israel is unbelievable. You go to those people that are Israeli high-tech people in Or Yehuda or wherever, Petah Tikva, and you said, we're strongly against hiring non-Jews. What are they going to say? Are they going to relate to that? Is that going to resonate with them?
it's going to resonate because they also don't. In high tech, there aren't. The problem of Arab labor does hardly exist. What?
ניתן.
They might have it.
Can.
I'll give an example, actually, a very cute example. Have you heard of Michael Ben-Ari? He was a Knesset member. Yeah, and so there's all the Sudanim,
The people from the
that came into Israel today. And what happened is that there's all these left-wing organizations in Tel Aviv screaming all day. Some people say you're not allowed to hire them, you shouldn't be involved with them. And then there's all these left-wing organizations from Tel Aviv saying you have to give them all the rights. They're just like us. Give them everything. They're the same as us. We should live with them together. So Michael Ben-Ari took a group of 100 of them and bought them tickets to a swimming pool in Tel Aviv, exactly in the leftist neighborhood. And they all took and they got in their bathing suits, they came into the swimming pool, and every single one of the leftists just came out screaming. And he videoed it. It's very nice to talk about it, but they're not going to do it themselves. He videoed it, and it was actually a very nice point he made over the news.
But has there been any polling done? I mean,
well, obviously, it's not. It's definitely, as you alluded to, it's not a popular. It's not a popular idea, but
Part of the change.
It's part of the change. People do not want to employ Arabs for two reasons. The simple reason is security, which doesn't so much exist here. So you can't compare it here to America at all. Because there you can have an Arab that worked for years, and then he, like just recently happened, he'll murder somebody in the work. So it's a big security problem to hire. That's one thing. That's a simple thing. That the Rebbe said the first consideration is security. But the second thing is what he just said now, Ephraim, is that there's a mitzvah in the Torah to hire a Jew before. If a Jew needs work, if your brother needs work, it's a mitzvah in the Torah to hire him and not to hire a non-Jew.
Even if the non-Jew is not an enemy. So
even if he's not an enemy, and even if the non-Jew takes less, it's simply, it no longer becomes a question of popularity. It's a question of halacha, that's all.
And it's one of the issues we need to try to make the change.
That's another thing. That's another one. That's something else.
Which one is it?
No,
it's even if it's cheaper, even if it's
It says in the end of Vayikra that if you buy, you have to buy from your brother before a non-Jew. If you sell, you have to sell to your brother before a non-Jew. If you employ, you have to employ your brother before a non-Jew. Again, if it interests you, we have a long essay on all of the halachic implications and ramifications of it.
In your discussion, because I heard the other night you speaking about labor, that would be the way to introduce it. About,
speak against happy cleaners.
You know, speak
it's
about
on Kingston. It's a Goyisha cleaners, you know, for suits and shirts.
Yeah.
And they open on Shabbos. It's Asians. You see tons of Jews in there all the time.
I do them.
There's many Jewish places in Crown Heights that do clothes cleaning, and the fact is that you have a chiyuv to go to someone, not a fry yid, but a from yid, you have a chiyuv to go, unless they're charging more than 20%.
Okay.
20 or 16?
20.
It's not a level of 1/6?
It's 1/5. But so unless they're charging more than 20. And so I was told that that's under mitzvah of hafta, you know, that's part of loving your fellow kid, but whatever it is. But I think it's crazy in Crown Heights, and I've spoken to people about this. They also said it's crazy that they're from Yidden, there are many other from businesses that will clean your shirts, whatever it is, and people go to happy cleaners.
I thought this was an issue mainly important in Israel, but I guess it is here too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm personally friendly with the Rebbes and the Rebbitzins' personal home care person that lived in the Rebbe's house for many years, a black lady, non-Jewish.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the Rebbe have taken a Jewish person to do that?
It's degrading.
Degrading to work?
I don't know. I'm saying it makes sense. You'll have to have non-Jewish. It's not the same. Look at the list of cleaning ladies. How many cleaning ladies are Jewish and non-Jewish? There's not that many non-Jewish cleaning ladies. There's not that many Jewish cleaning ladies. By cleaners, there's 2 cleaners on Kingston Avenue that is Jewish, and there's 2 other ones that are two other ones that are Jewish. Why do you have to choose the non-Jewish one? With cleaning ladies, I don't really know that many Jewish cleaning ladies.
You don't know any.
Yeah, I don't know any Jewish cleaning ladies.
Let me ask you, if I don't, another question.
The priority is
what is he's dabrut? This the
Histadrut.
Station, the television station. It's called Hidabrut. How successful? We've heard about it, but how successful is that been in Israel?
I don't watch television, so אולי אתה יודע? הוא שואל עד כמה מוצלח הערוץ ההידברות.
הם אומרים על עצמם שהם מאוד מוצלחים.
אני לא יודע, I don't see television.
They're starting it in America.
Oh.
We don't know, but I didn't.
You never saw it?
Saw it for a few minutes and I heard, but I didn't. Until now, all the arutsim, all those channels didn't have so well.
It's a full-time from station, no?
But only if you buy a subscription to the cable.
מה? אולי אימרי יודע, אימרי אתה יודע מה זה הידברות?
website of הרב It's successful.
They say that, I've heard that there's hundreds of thousands of people watching every day. Is that not true?
Very nice, extremely nice.
Is it?
Yes. They also give a platform for Chabad. Any good deeds that Chabad do, they advertise it. And but not only Chabad, all of the streams, they are connecting the whole stream of people.
You have to buy
I have
a
a question.
cable, or is it open to anybody?
Said or so.
No, any television in Israel can pick it up.
Yes. From here, go on the computer. We don't have television. Go on the computer. And now they have for children, for ladies, for men, question and answers and lectures, and very nice. People are responding tremendously.
Yeah, they're doing it in America. It was on the
And
front
also-
cover of the largest Jewish magazine in the United States now. That's 2
Which
weeks
is
ago.
what?
Hidabrut.
On what
That they're
magazine?
expanding into America.
What magazine?
Ami. Ami.
On me.
Yeah, you haven't heard? Ami's the #1 by far.
Where does it come out of?
It's friendly to Chabad. It's only the Frankfurters, it's a good fish, I think, but he has a lot of Chabad in there. But their weekly magazine 2 weeks ago had 320 pages. It's a weekly, 320 pages. They're very popular. They're much bigger than Mishpacha. They're the biggest one now. It's a weekly. So on the cover a few weeks ago, they had a picture of a satellite and saying how the Godoli Ador are saying how important it is to use satellite communications for promoting Hafatzas Torah. And remember when we came to Chabad, the Rebbe was the only one doing it, and they were saying, the Godoli Ador was saying it's usher to use it. And now on the cover they had Rabbi Kamenetsky, I think was one of them, on the cover, and Steinemann. He was also on the cover, and the Belzer Rebbe. These three are giving a bracha to expand into the United States now. So they're opening a full-time station here in the United States. You should be talking to them, maybe work with them.
Also, Rabbi Amir Cohen, also one of his greatest beginning was, and he initiates few books already about all of the new discoveries, how they're already in the Torah. So,
We have a lot about that.
yeah, but he's giving it and he puts a lot of it with the new discoveries, and he argues with the Goyim, he showed it to the Goyim, how it's not new and very nice. It's, I don't know what helps him.
I have a question. You know, throughout history, the Jews have always been involved in revolution. I mean, from in the beginning, the Exodus of Egypt, and many subsequent revolutions since then. So what's going on in Israel now that it's been so many years, and yet we don't see that the government has changed at all, one bit? This is not my question. I think I remember the Rebbe speaking about this once. But what is it that the Jews really need to hear to inspire them to get to the point that they decide, you know, what we have isn't right, and we've got to make a change?
Answer that.
We're waiting for your help. We're waiting for you to join us. Now, seriously, what I'm trying to say is that I think that one of the most important things that the Jews in Israel need is a big part of the change is that all the Jews get together to make this change.
The one place that there hasn't been a revolution is Israel. I mean,
because then this is probably an important point. They're just waiting for us, all the Jews in the world, to get together and be part of the change.
What about the fact that the Rebbe was really insistent upon our job outside of Israel to transform the world, to get to a place where Mashiach comes and we all get to Israel?
Once more?
From what I understand, the Rebbe was also very strong about the fact that the Jews have a very important role outside of Israel.
That's what we said. We said they have a very important role outside of Israel, and also to influence Israel from the outside. So this was Itel just said now in answer to Golan's question that we speak many times about the parable to break a shell, to break a nut. You have to be on the outside. You can't break it from the inside. So if there's a shell in Eretz Yisrael, Dafka, the people of the Jewry here has to try to break this shell from the outside.
Is it only through what we do amongst Jews, or is it also by elevating consciousness just worldly?
The Rebbe, this is a classic example of a change, that at one point the Rebbe said that the time has not yet come to deal with Goyim. But then at a later stage, he said that now that the time is ripe, and now we have to start teaching Sheva Mitzvot and everything pertaining to Goyim. And we see that now there's a tremendous arousal in Goyim. This Nati can tell, maybe tell where you were last week.
Last week I was in Holland. I have 5 lectures every night. Hundreds of Goyim came to. We are doing that for the last 2 years. And there's thousands of people who want to hear more and more. And we are working on this level also. The Rav did a book called Emancipation for the Nation. And it's taking the 7 Noach Law and explaining them by Premium. And there is a very big movement of people who are very interested on this.
I have another question. My personal work, I'm a musician, and I have a band, and we play only for women. But Baruch Hashem, for whatever reason, we have an appeal that has transcended the Jewish world, and we've been in every major press. We were even in Al Jazeera, we were on television all over the place, news, New York Times, whatever it is. We've been everywhere as far as press goes. And our main message is to create a space for women, to be amongst women, to tap into their own gifts and use it to elevate the world. I guess my question is from what I understand, a lot of change will come to the world through women. Maybe you want to add to what we could be giving the women of the world.
Okay, so we just now, on Chai Elul, a month ago, had a big event of 1,300 women in Yerushalayim, with also some of the most well-known women singers that appeared, and a band of women. So first of all, I invite you to come to participate in the next one that we have. What type of a band do you have?
So it's a rock band. That's the format, but the message is all the lyrics are Torah-based, Hasidic-based.
But what are the songs that you play?
We play our own original songs, and we also play Nigunim. And we play for women, Jewish, non-Jewish, religious, not religious. They all come into a space that we create in the sense that we...
How often do you appear?
So, Baruch Hashem, since the summer, we've also been appearing in even non-Jewish places, and like rock clubs in the city that agreed to be to...
How often?
Like once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, depending on the month. And it's been able to go beyond the world, beyond the neighborhood.
It's not every night yet.
No, we're going for it. We're definitely, but yeah, it's definitely, we want to get around the world. We definitely have calls coming in. It's a question of implementing and all these things.
They're all married women, young?
So I'm a widow. The singer is a divorcee, and the other 2 are married. Kind of the gamut of women population.
What do you play yourself?
Drums.
Drums. What are the other...
There's a pianist, classically trained student little, there's a violinist, there's a cellist. Sometimes we also play with a guitarist.
Sounds good. So the first thing is that you should get all of our CDs, and also incorporate some of the Nigunim into your repertoire.
We have some here.
That's number 1. Connecting.
I'd like to say what I do. I do the Matri readings, and the Rebbe gave me a bracha, and I did it 3 years on Discovery Cruise Line, and I called in, and I was called the onboard psychic. I'm not psychic, I'm not a fortune teller, but that was my title for the job, and I called Rabbi Klein back, and Rabbi Klein said, you know the bracha to do it. I want to make sure I understood the bracha. And I love doing it. And I'd like to do it because I had a bracha to do it, and because I feel I have the intuition or whatever it is, my body did it. And I'd like to be able to use it to be of service, to do. So I guess I could...
Okay, so maybe also we can help by a lot of information that we have in books and on psychology and on understanding the soul. Now actually we have a whole online course which is called Torah HaNefesh that you can learn about. I mean, besides all of the political things that we talked about, you should not get the impression that we're just into politics. Music is even more important than politics, because music is what's going to change the world for the politics. And psychology is also to get to the soul of that's the crux and the majority of the endeavors that we make. But we wanted to see, as we said before, we have to create the inner reality and we have to create the outer reality, both. So it has to come into the world. And what Golan asked about why the Jews are revolutionists, so it said there's something paradoxical about a Jew. In one state he's a revolutionary, and the other state he also has a flock mentality. He has a flock mentality, like going after, following a shepherd. That the ultimate following a shepherd is the question, who is the shepherd? That if the shepherd is Moshe Rabbeinu, then that's good. But there's something which is called like Kabbalah soul, that the Rebbe said. There's something in a Jew that he has some innate Kabbalah soul that he follows. So it's mamash two opposite properties of the Jewish soul, to be a revolutionary and to be a follower. So each can be good and bad. So that the bad following the existing establishment, that's what we have now in Israel. It's flock mentality. And now we have to bring out that other element in the Jewish soul, which is the revolution. That's what we're trying to do. Then it has to be Ratzov V'Shov. When we get the proper shepherd, then we have to be we have to follow.
That's okay. I was trying to figure a venue for actually taking the action to do my reading. So I don't know how to market it or do it. I'm hearing what you're saying though.
Okay, so we have to have some good marketers to help us market.
That's true.
That's what we're missing.
I could go to her show and she could. That might make a good thing, right?
Yeah. I would like to add two short things to what you were talking about, because you were talking a lot about the Jewish labor, just so you'll know the fact that one of the activities that's also run by students of the Rav is called in Hebrew Moked Avoda Ivrit. It's a project there's an office that collects Jewish businesses and puts it on an internet site, and then people who are interested come in, and make it much easier to find the Jewish business, because even if you want to only buy from Jews, it's not always easy, you don't know where to go. Someone has to have the information. Today there's over 2,000 businesses there, and it's always growing. And that's part of the activity. And the other they also have activity of making more awareness and the importance of this all over Israel. They advertise stuff, and it's very successful.
People don't believe, and they'll tell you a contractor will tell you that it's impossible, and the person I want to build or to renovate a house. So I said, you can only do it with Arabs. It's impossible. That for this reason we need this function that you call up or you go online, and there are hundreds of thousands of companies that employ only Jewish labor, and you can renovate your home with pure Jewish labor. Don't believe what you're told that it doesn't exist. So this is a public service that we try to supply to the public.
they're just people who don't believe if you'll tell them there's big contractors, they've never seen it. And they don't know that there's contractors today that have 80 and 90 workers, everyone Jewish, and they're building obviously also more professionally and very nicely. Just in the other point I wanted to add, the Rav was talking about how when we put up stands in public places, people, the feeling when you're standing there and talk to people, there's always, these words always are said again and again. That the words that are said are, I thought I was the only one who thought this. I thought I was the only one who wanted this, who wanted a big change. And then another example is in the last war we printed bumper stickers that said on them that our soldier's life comes before the civilian's enemy's life. And we didn't know how it would be accepted, so we printed a couple thousand, and within a couple of hours they were totally, people just grabbed them, so we printed another 20,000, and within a couple of days they were totally grabbed. And if we'd have more money for them, we'd print a lot more. The reaction we see from people that we meet, it's a very good reaction.
Can I ask you a question? So what do you want me to do? Like, I don't live in Israel and I can't like travel there. What should I be doing?
The main thing that I would say that's one of the main reasons, at least I joined this trip, is because we want to get people to. Part of the point, part of the goal of the movement is to raise public awareness, and that's going to happen. One of the ways it's going to happen is the bigger the movement is, the more members the movement has, the more strong the saying will be. If it's a movement of 100 Jews, so that's one thing. But if it's tens of thousands of Jews, and Yimil Hashem, the Rav gave us a goal of 100,000 Jews still this year. So that'll be a significant voice, something that the world can't, at least the Jewish world can't ignore, and especially if it's Jews from all over the world. First of all, we want everyone to join and become members, because it'll also make our voice much stronger. If we'll have a lot of Jews, and especially if we'll have Jews from all over the world, and it's also part of the change that needs to be made. When I say the change that needs to be made, I mean that Jews all over the world, like you and everyone else, should be part of what's going on in Israel and have an influence and be involved in all the activities of the movement. A lot of the activities of the movement are talking in the press or working with public relations, which is something that could be done from here too.
As we said before about children, something has to appear which inspires us. There has to be some source of inspiration for young children, for older children, for youth, your age, older. We believe that this can be a catalyst to inspire the people. If you're inspired, and you can inspire others, and there's also a lot of Torah behind it. It's all based on Torah. It means if you can learn the Torah behind what we're talking about and be able to give it over to other people, and now the term is used, turned on. We're trying to create something which will turn a lot of people on. Like he said about a stand, that all of a sudden, he said before, I don't know if you caught what he said, the person comes and sees this publicized, and he'll say that I thought I was the only one in the world that thought like that. I see somebody else thinks like that. Something has to happen to turn people on. So if you're turned on, it means that obviously you'll want to become a member, and you want to also, like when anybody has some new inspiration, he wants to inspire other people. It's he or by or. He receives light, he wants to share the light with other people.
I don't know if this is just an observation or whether it's a reality, but there's so much emphasis in Israel on high tech. It's obviously one of the leading areas of development in Israel, high tech. Excuse me. And I'm just wondering if a side effect of that is that, in the high tech industry, we're sort of removed from the physical realities of the world, in the sense we're not dealing with physical properties necessarily, with the land, with the building of buildings and so on. So I'm just wondering if this this has caused an effect that people don't feel as closely relating to the land anymore, because the jobs that they're all seeking are these, the high-tech jobs, the higher-paying jobs, and what's assumed to be lower-paying jobs or jobs that are not, as valuable, are the very ones that actually perhaps will connect people closer to the land in a way that they feel it's a part, they're a part of. So how can people in the high-tech world who have almost nothing to do necessarily with the physicality of the land sort of redevelop or rekindle that relationship or that feeling for Israel?
Because that's also a very, very good observation. And we talked about this today in Bishmot, about that you weren't there, that when we talked about the rainbow effect of this week's parsha, that after all of the different endeavors of Noach, so finally he decided that he has to go into the rainbow business, which is virtual reality, because all of the real reality backfired in some way, and he went bankrupt. First he had we'll go over it in short. First he had a patent office that he created, the plow, but everybody started stealing his patents, so that's why the flood was brought upon the Jewish world. Then he opened up a construction company to build the ark. Hashem told him to build an ark, so he did that for 120 years. After the flood was over, he went out of business in that company. Then he opened up a winery, and that lasted for a very short period of time. They immediately went bankrupt. And afterwards, he opened an employment service for a slave trade, and also didn't work out as we expected. So even though, as was mentioned before, the rainbow appeared before the slave service, nonetheless we said that the last thing that he did is going to high tech. That high tech is virtual reality, and he's removed from all of the problems of the physical world. But this is a classic example. We didn't make this point either this afternoon or right now this evening, that we have to be Noach. We have to have two levels of existence, which means that if you're working in high tech, in virtual reality, you still have to be educated and appreciate and be part of actual reality. So in other words, what the way that you describe things, which is obviously correct, is that people are severed. There's a severance. They get into high tech, into virtual reality, and they have no longer any touch for the physical world. So we're not against the higher Noach. We're just for learning how to live and to appreciate and to unite two levels of existence simultaneously, which is the virtual level, the rainbow, together with the earth. So that's part of our job.
So as you're speaking, I'm thinking of some of the first words that were said about Shabbos.
Right.
If the Jews were just to keep 2 Shabbosim and so on. So that's the one thing, as someone in the high-tech industry, Shabbos is our opportunity to really reconnect with the real...
Actually, this Shabbos, they had International Shabbos observation. You heard about that? One Shabbos, Rabbi Goldstein.
Somebody from South Africa?
Yeah, the chief rabbi of South Africa.
But he did it in South Africa.
No, he did it all over the world.
All over
This
the
world.
Shabbos Noah.
I say a while ago he did it in South Africa. It was very successful. So.
And then he expanded to the entire world. And it was also in a magazine article.
Very successful.
Right? They had hundreds of...
Very successful.
One Shabbos.
With the movement of Rav Zamir Cohen. It's all over the world.
Yeah, that's one Shabbos.
Okay, so definitely we have to connect forces. Okay, so help us connect forces.
For the last 4 years, we haven't seen the Rav in America, so maybe we could invite the Rav more often. There shouldn't be a 4-year gap.
Mitzvah Hashem. But because of those 4 years, and I brought 4 people, that each one is worth at least a year. It's more than a year. So you have to bring more people. If I come by myself, then it just appears like total virtual reality. Bring another few people, that you get the feeling that something is something is real. Okay, so Yasher Koach to Golan, and Mitzvah Hashem, we should together bring Mashiach as the Rebbe wants.
If anyone here is interested in hearing more, we're having a weekly newsletter published soon, so there's papers here you can put in your email.